know this silhouette. Everyone does. It is the inspiration for Disney's Sleeping Beauty, the most photographed building in the world. But the story behind it has no happy ending. This was never meant to be a tourist attraction. It was built for one man alone, King Ludwig II, the fairy tale king. He built this castle to hide from reality, to hide from the world. But the walls that were supposed to protect him eventually became his prison. He lived here for only 172 days. And then he was dragged away in the middle of the night, declared insane by his own government. The next day, the king was found dead in the lake. Was it suicide or was it murder? This is the true story of the king's golden cage.
Before Neuschwanstein existed, it was just a ruin on a hill. Young Prince Ludwig grew up right next to it in Hohenschwangau Castle. He spent hours looking at those rocks through a telescope, not seeing the ruins, but seeing a fantasy. Ludwig was obsessed with German legends, specifically the Swan Knight, Lohengrin. He didn't want a fortress for war. He wanted a stage, a temple for his idol, the composer Richard Wagner. I want to remain an eternal mystery to myself and others. In a letter to Wagner, he wrote, "It will be the most beautiful and holy place, worthy of you." But at 18, reality struck. His father died, and the dreamer was forced to become king. He hated politics. He hated war. While Europe was fighting, Ludwig was drawing blueprints.
So he began to build his escape. In 1869, the first stone was laid on a rugged cliff edge. It was an engineering nightmare. The road up the mountain had to be blasted out of solid rock. On the outside, Neuschwanstein looked like a perfect medieval fortress, but inside, it was a lie. Ludwig hated the 19th century, but he loved its comfort. The castle had central heating, automatic flush toilets, and even one of the very first telephones in Bavaria. He wanted to be completely alone. He even installed a mechanical table that rose from the kitchen below, just so he never had to face a servant. The centerpiece was the magnificent throne hall, a cathedral designed for a king who believed he was chosen by God. 2 million golden mosaic tiles, a giant chandelier waiting for candles. But if you look at the dais, it is empty. The solid gold and ivory throne was never built. Neuschwanstein was a glorious stage waiting for a play that never happened.
But fantasies are expensive. Neuschwanstein was draining the Bavarian treasury dry. And it wasn't the only one. He was building 3 massive palaces simultaneously. By 1885, the king was drowning in debt to foreign banks. As the debts grew, Ludwig retreated further into darkness. He began sleeping all day and living only at night. His people called him Der Mondkönig, the Moon King. He became a ghost in his own castle. Servants reported seeing him bowing to statues and holding conversations with imaginary guests from centuries past. In Munich, his ministers had enough. They couldn't control him, so they decided to remove him. They hired 4 psychiatrists to declare the king insane. The doctors wrote a damning report without ever examining him. The trap was set. The golden cage was about to lock shut. June 10th, 1886, a government commission arrived at the gates in the pouring rain. They came to arrest the king. He was dragged from his bedroom. As he was taken away to a carriage, he looked back at Neuschwanstein one last time. He would never see it again. They took him to Castle Berg on the shores of Lake Starnberg. It was supposed to be a medical asylum, but it was a prison. The next evening, June 13th, the king asked to go for a walk. Dr. Gooden, the psychiatrist who declared him insane, agreed to go with him, alone, no guards. They were supposed to return by 8 p.m.
but they never came back. A search party was sent out with torches. At 11 p.m., they found them. Both the king and the doctor were floating dead in the shallow water. Official verdict: suicide by drowning, but there was no water in the king's lungs, and the doctor's body showed signs of a violent struggle. Did he try to escape? Was he shot? Or was he simply silenced? To this day, the death of the fairy tale king remains an unsolved cold case. Ludwig died believing he was a failure. He built Neuschwanstein as a private sanctuary, strictly forbidding strangers to enter. But irony has a cruel sense of humor. 6 weeks after his death, the castle was open to the public. The debts that killed him were paid off by tourist tickets in just a few years. Today, 1.5 million people visit his golden cage every year. The Mad King is gone, but his dream is the only thing that survived. Thanks for watching Castle Tapes.